Hello, class, and welcome to our video review of 4 ways the Riley ruling matters for the N.S.A. Again, another source that could be used for this essay. Number 3, in which you are analyzing the causes and effects of surveillance on our privacy rights and whether or not the benefits of the surveillance outweigh the in many ways violations of privacy rights. So this article, right, from the New Yorker takes a particular ruling, which is logos, and analyzes it, right, and provides very clear details for the academic argument. So I think this is a wonderful source to think about including, along with the nothing to hide argument. And to be honest, just as with essay 1 and essay 2, and now with essay 3, most, if not all, of the readings that you're evaluating for our classes could be used as secondary sources, right? There's a method to my madness, to quote Hamlet. And if you take me for critical thinking, right, we look at Hamlet, Macbeth, and Othello, decisions the characters make to determine how they could have used critical thinking skills better, ethos, logos, and pathos, right? So back to our discussion at hand on surveillance and privacy. So it begins with a detailed description of the scene, right? By noting the license plates, they were able to get the home phone. In a separate case, a continent away, officers stopped a Lexus making its way through Lincoln Park neighborhood of San Diego, California, with expired tags. The license of the driver, David Riley, wasn't valid either, and there were 2 guns under the hood of the car. The police also took his Samsung Instinct M80 smartphone, which they said had been in his pocket. There is a single trajectory that joins the car ride in Baltimore and the one in San Diego, 33 years apart, by way of 2 major Supreme Court cases. Smith versus Maryland in 1979, which said that the police were within their rights to trace Smith's phone calls without a warrant, and is often cited in defense of the National Security Agency's bulk collection of data on Americans. So they said they were within their rights to trace phone calls without a warrant back in 1979. Normally a warrant is needed, and it wasn't until the Patriot Act that a lot of these rules were changed. But right, we have Smith versus Maryland as a case to consider, and Riley versus California decided last week, in which the court said that the police were not right to trawl through the data on Riley's cell phone, texts, contacts, pictures, videos, without a warrant. The decision in Riley was unanimous and essential. The opinion, written by Chief Justice John Roberts, did not mention the N.S.A, but it reflects the debate about the agency that has taken place in the past year thanks to documents leaked by Edward Snowden, N.S.A contractor. So again, just as the nothing to hide argument referenced the Snowden situation, we see that it is a very important decision influencing the Riley decision as well. So how might Riley versus California affect the cases that are surely headed to the Supreme Court post Snowden? So the author then begins to introduce, right, the source that going to have the podcast, right? And I like how in the introduction of Jeffrey Toobin, right? I should say that Toobin and I have a somewhat different view on the subject, in part because of the gulf he sees between national security and criminal justice jurisprudence. I like the Rogerian aspect at the onset of the document. These cases together will help define the future of the Fourth Amendment, which affirms, and here we are. Now we're getting back to constitutional amendments and logos. The right of people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, we've talked about qualifiers all semester, words that limit our claims. Just like Kathy Freston says, we should eat less meat, right? What kind of searches? Unreasonable. So how do we define that? Right? In the absence of a warrant. They also touch on questions of language and technology and the way one shapes the other. So yet another example of topics to explore in this essay, the idea of language and technology and definitions, in addition to notions of surveillance and privacy. So here are the 4 ways that Riley matters when thinking about the N.S.A. 1, a phone is not a phone. The term itself, the definition, right, is misleading shorthand because it was viewed as essentially a mini computer, right? Second, right, right, they are now maps and music players, they're cameras, they're lighters. Cell phones have morphed into multi-purpose devices. So even though I said a mini computer, we'll just call it for the argument of the article, right? Multi-purpose devices. And that's a point that you could bring in your analysis for academic argument, essay number 3. A phone is also not a cigarette pack filled with heroin, right? So again, they explain how it's a different type of ability to search something without a warrant. Searches that are reasonable. Again, we're getting back to that qualifier, unreasonable. To see what a person is carrying when he's arrested in case there's, say, a weapon or something hazardous, or whatever was in that pack he knew was not cigarettes. But when it comes to a suspect's phone, the police know what it is and what they will find. So again, it makes the searching of the phone unreasonable. That a pocket couldn't hold very much, and then it kind of goes on this idea of if a pocket contains a cell phone, went too far with the click. However, that is no longer true. Indeed, a cell phone search would typically expose to the government far more than the most exhaustive search of a house. A phone not only contains in digital form many sensitive records previously found in the home, it also contains a broad array of private information never found in a home in any form unless the phone is. New technology doesn't mean that law enforcement gets a bonanza. Ooh, great word, right? A bounty, a bountiful harvest, if you would. It means that precedents need to be re-examined before they are uncritically applied. Again, this notion of critical thinking, focusing on logos and ethos rather than unreasonable emotional appeals or illogical emotional appeals or logical fallacies as appeals. Uncritically applied in that the N.S.A.'s advocates will have some real work to do. Right? Any extension of that reasoning to digital data has to rest on its own bottom. Interesting quote. If it's my house, it's not just metadata. So we have been constantly reassured since the Snowden revelations that what the government collects without a warrant is just metadata. And what could be the harm in that? And that it's supposedly distinguishable from content. However, that is not the case, right? The court in this case concluded that the use of a pen register was not a quote unquote search at all under the Fourth Amendment. There's no dispute here that the officers engaged in a search of Worry's cell phone. Moreover, call logs contain more than just phone numbers. They include any identifying information that an individual might add, such as the label, my house, in Worry's case. And last, the fourth reason Riley ruling matters, judges really need to know the technology when evaluating the government's claims, right? But the government said we can't wait to get a warrant. Criminals will have their data remotely erased by their confederates. They will spring geofencing traps that will wipe the phones clean. There might be only moments before the phone locks. The evidence will be out of our reach forever before we can reach a judge. Now, I like how he starts this argument by automatically listing all the counter arguments, examining it from a Rogerian perspective. Right? This all sounds very alarming, geofencing, but luckily someone told the justices that you can deal with a lot of the issues with simple measures like removing batteries, using the window before a phone is locked to change the locking settings, or just putting the thing in what are called Faraday bags. They're essentially sandwich bags made of aluminum foil, cheap, lightweight, and easy to use. Technical awareness and skepticism of government claims about ticking time bombs. These are two easy to use items that will be helpful to the court in the coming N.S.A. cases. Right? We are not on a different planet than we were 4 decades ago. I love how, let's look at the conclusion here, how it repeats, reviews, and reflects. Remember the 3 R's when you're constructing your conclusions for your academic argument essays. Repeat your point. What is the point that you want to make about the typical or the type, of surveillance that you're going to analyze in your essay? Is it enhancing our society, undermining its purposes, or maybe is it a little bit of both? Is it enhancing, but it has unforeseen consequences, right? Again, want to look specifically, right, on bigger picture stuff, rhetorical awareness, global awareness, reflect on the human experience and what we learn about our culture and society, right, by analyzing and evaluating the arguments for, right, surveillance in addition to and versus the arguments for privacy and the constitutional rights and the Bill of Rights that come with those laws. So we are not on a different planet than we were 4 decades ago, but we move through it differently with pockets bigger than our houses. In his decision, Roberts wrote that pretending that delving into cell phone data is materially indistinguishable from the old way of searching the things a person carried is like saying a ride on horseback is materially indistinguishable from a flight to the moon. Both are ways of getting from point A to point B, but little else justifies lumping them together. A horse is not a moon rocket. A 1975 Monte Carlo isn't even a Lexus in Lincoln Park. And remember, this all comes back to the search of the Lexus in Lincoln Park. So I thought the concluding remarks were very clear in the author's perspective on the issue. And I liked how there was that reflection on the human condition, life, culture. What do we learn about our society, and how can we benefit from an evaluation and an analysis of uh, the relationship between surveillance and privacy? So I hope you found this video lecture helpful. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And as always, let me know if you have any questions as you're moving forward with your essay 3 topics and thoughts and pre-writings and all that good stuff. Till next time.